I have been trying to make this video for a while now, but we are finally going to get to take a deep dive into the My Funded Futures Prop Firm Funding Program. And I'm really excited to bring you this one today because they do some things a little bit differently. But first, a little bit about me so you can understand the perspective of where I'm coming from. I am a futures and options trader. I'm primarily self-funded, but I really do like prop trading in order to really get some inexpensive leverage to amp up my profits and be able to take payouts in addition to the other trading that I'm doing, which has really helped launch my trading income and my trading career. So I'm really excited about that. I am an affiliate with My Funded Futures, so if you use code Barbie for any of your accounts, if you're a brand new customer, it should get you 50% off. It'll kind of depend on their promotions a little bit. And then if you're a returning customer, whatever promotion they have going on, it'll give you that current promotion or at least a very minimal discount. So go ahead and use that code if you do end up signing up with them. I do have a little bit of a special relationship with My Funded Futures as well. I've been involved with their My Funded TV program here on YouTube. So I open up that show for the first 90 minutes of their program in the morning. And I've been really enjoying that. In fact, I guess they enjoy having me because they did send me this cool shirt. So I do want you to understand that I have that relationship with them. I'm making this video letting you know that they are one of my favorite prop firms. And that's part of why I wanted to bring this to you today. I'm not bringing them to you to complain about them, but there are some things they do really differently that I wanted to let you know about. And then I'll also kind of nitpick some things if you want to know where I could see some possible improvements or some things that you might want to look out for. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And of course, I have this ongoing project of kind of going through and looking through the very best futures prop firms so that we can kind of keep track and compare them all as we go along in our trading journey. So I have that for you on my website at bullbarbie.com. You can just come here and at the top, it says prop firms. You can click on that and that'll take you to this prop firm comparison chart. And you'll be able to go through this along with me today. This is the chart that I put together because I personally wanted to see all of this information line by line so that I can compare these accounts myself. I don't want to limit myself to just one prop firm, but I do want to limit myself to the best prop firms that I can actually count on to be able to have a good ongoing relationship with. So that's what I'm trying to find right now. And let me know what you think about My Funded Futures after we get through with this here. But I do have all the discount codes and basic information on this page for you right here. So the very first thing that everyone always wants to know is just what kind of accounts they have and what the cost is. So we'll start there. And they have a 50K, 100K, and 150K plan. One of the things that's a little bit different over at My Funded Futures is they have several different account types. So you'll see there's a range on a lot of these for the My Funded column, just because it depends on the account type and size how all of this works. And we'll go through all those details, but that's why you'll see a little bit more ranges on this one. So the cost, and I want to go through this and make sure you understand this is some very basic math, but you've got to be good at basic math to be a trader. So the basic cost, when you look at just their most popular plan, it's the 50K Starter Plus, which is listed at about $127 a month. But it depends on if you have a promotion going on or if you're a brand new customer a little bit, what that is going to end up costing. So on all of these 50K prices, you see I have this asterisk. If you scroll down, that's going to be letting you know that that's kind of roughly what it's going to be with their most common popular promotions that they run. So it might vary a little bit for you. So when you're just looking straight across, it might look like this is one of the most expensive accounts. But what I want to point out to you is that even when some of these other guys are running these massive sales and you can get an account for $18, $20, something like that, you then have to pay an activation fee on top of that. So I have this line right here. I don't know if they're the only one. They're the only one that I've dealt with, but My Funded Futures does not charge an activation fee. So let me explain this. When you pay for your evaluation account or test account or whatever they're calling it, you're going to pay whatever the price is for that account. If you pass this account, which is the goal, we all want to pass the account, right? most of these guys, once you pass, you're going to get an email that says, congratulations, you've passed the challenge and you're ready to move on to the next step. But in order to do that, you have to go sign all these agreements and send us some money. We got to have more money for that. And I'm not really totally sure what that's for, because a lot of times traders are taking more than one try to actually pass these, especially new traders. New traders rarely pass these the very first time. So, but that's a cost that you really need to be aware of and take into consideration. So what I like to do when I'm making these charts is have the total cost of that basic 50K account when you have the cost of the initial account plus the activation fee. So when you get an email from My Funded Futures when you've passed your account, it's going to say, congratulations, you've passed your account. We've moved you on to the next step. There's no additional fee. There's no additional anything. So that it just happens. So when you actually look at the total cost, and this is just for one pass. So if you're taking more than 1 month or more than one pass, or you're doing resets, you need to add those onto this. But the total cost of just passing it the first try, without that activation fee, they are the cheapest. So that's something to pay attention to. You may not know how many passes it's going to take, but if you have a plan and, leverage it right, which means not hitting the max contracts that you can do and all of that, then hopefully you can get these passed in just a try or two and it won't be that big of a deal. As for payouts, they're competitive on this as well. You get to keep your first $10,000 in payouts. After that, it's going to be a 90-10 split in most accounts. There is one that has an 80-20 split. And you can request a payout basically every week or every 2 weeks if you're in that fancier expert account. So it's every 5 trading days, so it ends up being a week, or every 14 days if you're in that expert account. Okay, I'll go through the rest of the table with you real quick, but in the case of My Funded Futures, I'm not going to spend as much time on this table because they have the different account offerings, and I want to go through that with you. But here is, if you want to kind of compare apples to apples, they are pretty comparative and with what they're offering on the drawdown. So the 50K, there's a $2,000 drawdown, then a $3,000 for the 100K. As far as the ratios, they're also pretty competitive. The number of contracts is less than some of the other firms. But again, I already told you at the beginning, if you want to pass this account, don't be trying to use 10, 14, 17 mini NASDAQ or ES futures contracts and expecting it to fit in these $2,500, $3,000, $5,000 accounts. Are you trying to make it hard on yourself? Don't do that. So we do not have a daily loss limit. They used to have a daily loss limit, so this might be different if you're looking at some other information that's older. But My Funded Futures did get rid of their daily loss limit. They are available on most platforms, so you can trade it where you're kind of used to trading other prop firms. If you're new, that's going to be Trade-Evate, NinjaTrader, Sierra Charts, Addis. So the Trade-Evate Trader is also web-based. So if you don't have standalone software and just want to trade it on the web, you can in a browser. And then they also have web apps for that. And there's some other software that you can tie into this as well, including Rhythmic. They do have some consistency rules, but it depends on the account. So we'll go back into there. And then, okay, this is one of the ones that's really, really important to me is the intraday drawdown. So we'll talk about that. They do not have intraday trailing drawdown in My Funded Futures. I'll stress that again later because that's a big deal for me. The other big deal for me is not having the account just vanish after 5 or 7 days of not trading in it. I know that you can email them and say, dude, I'm going on vacation, but you know what? It's none of their business if I'm just popping down to the beach for a few days and I'm not going to trade my account. 30 days, that'll work fine. And actually, I need to update this one over here. That's not none anymore, but that's for another day. All right, let's pop over to their website and we can kind of dive deeper into these account offerings a little bit. First, I love how their website's super clean. That's great. They do kind of mention all the highlights up here. So we'll kind of go through that real quick. They do not have a minimum or maximum amount of days that you have to trade. You can get paid out as often as weekly. So that's 5 winning days for some of these accounts. And the first $10,000 you get to keep. And then after that, in most accounts, it's a 90% profit split. And it is straightforward. As I was telling you, I don't want a prop firm that is going to make everything really complicated and hard for me. We want it to be win-win. So I like how everything's going to be straightforward. And you don't have to wait for a specific day of the month or any sort of stars aligned to request your payout. It's just when you've met those minimum requirements. Okay, so this is where it can get kind of confusing, especially when you're brand new. I want everything to be really simple, and it's not simple when you have all of these account offerings, but I kind of understand why they have it too, so we'll go through that. But basically, if you're brand new to My Funded Futures and you want something that is really comparable to another prop firm or that's really simple, you should look at these starter plus accounts. So they have the 50K, 100K, 150K, and these profit targets and trailing drawdown is going to look pretty familiar to you. We'll go in on all these details in just a minute, but I just want to kind of explain to you the kind of groupings they have. So the starter plus is going to be for most traders who are still working on passing their first live, or maybe they've passed a couple, but they don't know that they can for sure pass it. But this 50K is going to be for most traders. If you're brand new and this seems like it's too much to spend and you just want something really, really simple, but don't mind your hand being held even a little bit more, they do have this bare bones package down here. That's the starter package. They only have a 50K and it's just bare bones. In my opinion, the starter plus is a better value. We can talk about that in a little bit. But if you are more advanced and you've passed some accounts before, then the expert accounts might be a good option for you. You kind of you pay a little bit more for these, but you buy a little bit more freedom. And these accounts are designed for a little bit more experienced traders. And all of these three groupings that I just showed you have the track of starting in a simulation account. And to be clear, these are labeled as 50K, 100K, 150K. This is kind of how all the prop firms are set up. But what you really have to work with is this trailing max drawdown. So if it's $2,000, it's $2,000 that you're working with, or $3,000. So that's what we're really working with. And all three of these first groups, you're going to start out in a simulation account that has that much drawdown allowed in it. And then if you pass the challenge, you're going to move on to a sim funded. So that's still a simulation account, but it's funded because if you make profits and meet the requirements for getting payouts, then you'll be able to get payouts from that, even though it's a sim account. Of course, if you have a lot of really great traders doing that, you're not going to be able to sustain that forever. So at a point, you'll get moved into a live funded. And the difference between the live funded and the sim funded is literally just being in a simulated environment versus having your live trades be in a live account in the live market. If you've done this before and know what's going on, then maybe you are fine just getting through the evaluation and going straight to a live funded. And if you are, then they have that option for you. You pay a little bit more for it to skip that step. That's kind of how all of these are set up. You pay a little bit more to get a little bit more freedom and get a fast pass to the front of the line. But that's what the Eval-to-Live account is. I want to show you kind of how all this works on the back end because that chart has a little bit more details. So if you're going to add an evaluation and you already have an account set up, this is kind of what it'll look like, but it has all these extra details. And so I want to show you this. So let's start with their 50K starter plus accounts. In general, the starter plus accounts are going to be most comparable to what you've seen at the other firms. And I think it's where most of you are probably going to start out. So these are the general rules of it. Of course, you got the prices up here. Try the code. Hopefully you'll get a better deal than that. But the max contracts for these is 3, 6, and 9. We're just going to focus on the 50K, so I'll let you kind of move up from there. So 3 contracts in the 50K, that means 3 NASDAQ, 3 ES minis, something like that. If you're going to go into micros, then that's what we'll go into micro scaling. The drawdown is end of day, and there is no activation fee. So this is the total all-in price. Like I was saying, you don't get that email later that's like, good job, money please. It's just going to be automatic. You pass, you're set, you're good to go, where everybody else is kind of charging that fee. The drawdown is end of day. Like I said, I do not want that intraday drawdown because what that is It's penalizing you for having unrealized profits. If you don't sell at the very, very top, you're going to lose some of this max drawdown. So it's starting at $2,000. If you have a $2,000 drawdown and you have a trade run, but it comes back down a little bit before you take profit, you no longer have a max trailing drawdown of $2,000 if you have intraday trailing drawdown. Thankfully, My Funded Futures has end of day trailing drawdown, so they're just trailing you based on your end of day balance, and that's going to be actual realized gains and not unrealized profits, which I've said this before and I will say it again. Realized profits are the sexy ones. Those are the ones that we need to be bragging about. So the profit target on that is $3,000. That means you basically have $2,000 to work with to end up with $3,000. If you're new to futures, that sounds crazy. It's not. We're working with crazy high leverage here. And so this is the target in order to get this passed and move on to the account that you can get paid out of. The micro scaling is 10 to 1. So that's what I was talking about earlier. You can take 3 ES minis, NQ minis. If you're going to move down to the micros, it's 10 to 1. So you can take 30 E minis, the MESs. Sorry, you can take 30 MESs, the micro E minis. And you can also take 30 MNQ, the micro E mini NASDAQs. There is a consistency rule. So what that means is when you're going for your profit target of 3K, you don't want any one trade to be more than 50% of that. So that basically means, set your take profits to where you're not making more than $1,500 on one trade. That would be a really nice run anyway, if you're actually kind of respecting the leverage that you're given here and making sure that you don't hit that drawdown. And then there is no scaling rule as far as being able to take more contracts with the more profits that you have. Once you get into a funded account, you still do not have that daily drawdown limit. I know some traders actually like the daily drawdown limit. And so I do want you to know that when you're in software like Trade-of-8 or NinjaTrader, whatever it is, you can still set your own personal daily drawdown limit, but there isn't a firm-wide one here. So the firm's not limiting you on your daily drawdown. They just have your max drawdown for the entire account. So once you have had 5 days of trading, and you've had at least $100 of profit for those trading, then you can make a payout. You can withdraw from that funded account if it's at least $250. The larger the account, the larger most of those limits are going to be, but then the ratios and things stay the same. So that's the account that I think most people are going to start on. I did tell you there's the bargain basement one down here. That's the starter plan. So part of the deal is this is rarely on special. If you see any of the promotions going on, and again, if you use code Barbie, that'll send me a thank you at no extra cost to you, but you'll get whatever the current promotion is or some sort of it should be something. But I cannot promise it'll be on this starter account because it's the Walmart special, they just don't have specials on it. The Starter Plus has more features, so I usually recommend that one more. The max drawdown, you get a little bit more max drawdown. The other one was $2,000. This one's $2,500. See, 2,000. Now we're up at 2,500. It's still the end of day trailing drawdown. You still have no activation fee. You still have a $3,000 profit target. This is the one that does have that daily drawdown limit. If you really want to be babysat, they will limit you to $1,200. You can do that yourself in software if you really want to. So that's what I'm saying. That's not a value for me to really go down to this program here. And again, if you pass this starter account, you don't get a starter plus funded, you get a starter funded. So that means that you're still going to have the daily drawdown follow you into the funding, but you still can use micros in that account. The funded account has a consistency in it though. So if you notice that the evaluation doesn't have a consistency rule on this really beginner plan, but the funded does. You're going to be more limited on a funded program with this one. And it's similar where you have to have 5 days of at least $100 profit, which is not very much. Y'all can do this on futures and then you can get that minimum payout. So the expert plan is kind of in the middle of those starter plans and that Eval-to-Live. So again, if you have passed an eval before, you might be willing to spend more money and that would put you up in here. So what you get for spending more money, you can trade more contracts. The starter plus, you could trade 3. Now up here at the expert, you can trade 5. It's still end of day drawdown, still no activation fee. Your profit target does move up a little bit. So instead of 3K, it's 4K, but you do not have daily drawdown. One of the other big things that you're getting when you get this account is there's no consistency rule or scaling rule, and I'll explain that in just a minute on either of these accounts. So the other thing that you do want to know, the payout schedule on these is a little bit different. So the other one you had to have you had to have 5 days of at least $100. And this one is just every 2 weeks. So basically every 2 weeks, you're kind of on a 2-week payment schedule with these expert plans. They're set up for that trader who really wants that more regular setup and has some way of making regular profits. And so if you are already profitable, already somewhat consistent, at least this might be a good plan for you where you can get those every other week payouts. Your payout does need to be at least $1,000 to be able to get it, but that's how that one works. We'll go over all of that scaling real quick, but before we do that, I wanted to hop over and show you the Eval-to-Live. So this is the one where instead of going from your evaluation account into a sim funded and then into a live funded, this one you skip that middle step and you just go from sim funded straight up to live funded with real live funds in the real live market. Because you're doing that, they have some extra limits and things where you have to prove yourself a little bit. But basically, so for that 50K, you're going to pay more for it, and you still can only use 3 contracts. Your max drawdown is only $1,500. This is meant for traders who really can prove themselves. That is end of day, though. It's not going to trail in the middle of the day with you based on unrealized gains. It's still a $3,000 profit target on this one. And they do still have the 2 different phases in here. So I'm going to go over to that when we look at payouts in a little bit. But they have some bonuses set up in this account. You are allowed to use scaling, and they do have some consistency in this plan. So that's something to kind of consider. You can see why a lot of people kind of end up on the starter and the expert. So those are really, really popular plans, good ones to look at. Back over to the MyFunded website. A lot of these things that you're going to find, this is true for a lot of the prop firm websites, it's going to be in this FAQ. There's always a help tab or something like that. But if we go over to there, this is where I wanted to talk about some of this because I wasn't really super clear about this when I was looking through the other plans on how this Eval-to-Live scaling program works. So this is what that means. So after you pass that account, and before you were allowed to use three minis in that account, once you pass that Eval-to-Live, you end up in this scaling program. This is what this means. At first, you're given $2,000 to work with. And until you get up to $4,000, you can only take 1 mini or 10 micros. So once you earn, $2,000, once you've doubled that account, then they're going to give you the privilege of trading 2 minis or 20 micros. And then the next $2,000, you get another one. So basically every $2,000 you earn in that account, you earn more freedom. Once you've earned $20,000, you can trade whatever the heck you want. They trust you. You're good to go. All right, let's talk about payouts again real quick. I mentioned at the beginning, you get to keep 100% of the first $10,000 that you earn. After that, it's a 90-10 split, unless you're in that Eval-to-Live where you skipped that second step, and then your profit target is going to be 80-20. So some of this is review because we just went over this, but the starter plan, you can request a payout every 5 winning days. A winning day is just $100 or more. They do have a consistency rule and a minimum withdrawal, but it's really super small. The starter plus is the same, but no consistency rule. And that one you have a little bit less money to work with, and you have your hand held a little bit more. The expert plan is made to get you paid basically every other week as a more established trader. If you do choose the expert plans, there are some other things to be aware of. They have that buffer zone that was mentioned where you have these targets to get outside of that buffer zone. And then there's also some ways to get that account closed and make sure that you get your payments out of there. I'm not going to go into that in detail in this video, but that is some stuff that you can go look at. All right, that other page also kind of mentioned this bonus structure, so I wanted to bring that to you. So this is either the 1-step or the 2-step to get into that live account. So once you're in a live account, they have this extra bonus structure. So after you've been in a live and you have winning days and pass evaluations, they're going to give you some even additional payments, just some bonuses for being a great trader and being a part of the program and being an upstanding member of the community. Okay, I hope that explains a lot of the different account types and things. I know that can be kind of confusing, but that's kind of the biggest thing to tackle. So like I said, if you're new, start out in this starter plus category. If you're more experienced, kind of start poking around in some of these other options. But keep in mind that even though no matter where you go, what prop firm you look at, the 50K, 100K, 150K, that's a marketing term. If you really want to look at what you have to work with, it's going to be this trailing max drawdown, no matter how you slice it. I mentioned earlier the platforms that they work with, so they have that listed here. This is really nice. You can bring it with you and manage trades on the go. I've done that before. I've been on the golf course and closed out of a trade that I didn't like because I was able to log in and do that online. I think all in all, when we're looking for a prop firm, we're really looking for someone that we can trust. And I know there's 1,000 prop firms popping up every which way, every which direction. I get a ton of emails every day about them too. And I'm looking for someone who's going to be there long term. I take this seriously. It's just, I want to make serious money. So I take this seriously. And if I'm going to be messing with a prop firm and spending any time and effort on them, I want to make sure that they're going to be there for the long haul. This isn't some fly by night random dude just, trying to make a quick buck. And you can look up these people. They are real people. These aren't the knuckleheads on X touting all these unrealistic expectations and everything. These are real people looking for real talent. And, along the way, they need to make some money, but, hopefully they can help us make some money as well. And I think that it's a really great option whether you're self-funded and want to add on to the existing trading you have, or you're looking for a funding option. The right prop firm can be a good tool for you. And not everyone is going to make a great prop firm trader, and that's okay. But if you're in the futures market and are interested, I definitely think that My Funded Futures is worth a try. Of course, use the discount code, see if you can get a little extra discount on there. And let me know what you think if you've tried them before, or if you are looking to try them, or if I should review somebody else. Let me know about that one as well. Remember to stay positive, because if you want your account to be positive, you've got to be positive too. And I will see you next time. Love you.